All right, welcome to Romance Happy Hour. I am Dylann Crush, and I am here with Dawn Luedecke over there. And we have awesome guests tonight, Erin La Rosa and Jen Talty with us. Welcome. We're excited to have you with us. So, Erin, you're muted.
Yes, you're muted.
Excellent.
There we go.
Great. I said something really witty. I'm not going to say it. It was just thanks for having us.
Bummer. We missed the it's like those, when somebody says something and you think of the best comeback, like 3 hours later when you're all alone. And
I usually think of it when I'm like alone in my room at night about to fall asleep. I'm like,
right.
Or taking a shower.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The best ideas come to me in the shower, and then I get out and I'm like, gone, totally gone.
Well, we're excited to have both of you with us tonight. Dawn, it's been 2 weeks since I saw you last. What have you been doing? What have you been up to?
Believe it or not, I was cramming in a book. I was in my cave writing. I even told real estate, just F off for a little while. I have to get this book done. And I got it done yesterday and edited and sent to my editor. So I'm like,
great.
Yeah. And that's why I was like, oh, shoot. I was supposed to do my romance happy hour tasks this morning when I woke up at 3:30 a.m. And so I was like, Dylan's going to kill me. I'm late. But I did them. I got them done.
It's all good. It's all good. We're here. It's all good. I see Jennifer's joining us. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
Glad to have you with us. So writing, you've been writing.
I have been, yeah. I wrote a, it's a short story. I think I might expand it later on because it's a road trip. It's a mini road trip is what I like to say, but it has so much potential to be a really fun, like full length. So I think I will expand it later on, but it is the kind of a prequel to a book that's going to be released either later on this year or early next year. So, yeah.
Excellent. And where's this coming out? You said it's a short story. Is it in an anthology?
It's going to be in an anthology, the Oak Valley. I don't know the exact title of it, but it's of Oak Valley World, basically. So we're doing an anthology to introduce the world. So, yeah, it's going to be in that. I'm very excited. And Dylann, you know it because we were actually like talking about possibly writing it together. It's the dog app book. Right?
Oh, well, that was a full length book. And then
it was full length. And so this is a prequel.
But now it's a road trip?
No, that's it's a different book it's segueing into that one.
So. Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah, we talked about that for a long time. And then you had it out your agent had it out. And then out on submission and everything. And
and then she's like, your voice is historical. You need to go back to historical. So I'm like, all right, I'll self-pub this contemporary. And now I get to go back to historical with my agent. So,
I mean, I do love your historical books.
I
love your contemporary too, but I really, really, really love your historical voice. So
I don't think I could write historical. I'm not smart that way.
I don't know how you research those. Oh my gosh.
Dawn writes American historicals.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, not Wild West so much, but you wrote like Gold Rush, Montana, and
I bet that's still a lot of research.
And seafaring historical too. Yeah.
So I find it interesting that you say that you couldn't write historicals. I love history and I love historicals. I could never or would never, I don't know if it's couldn't or wouldn't write historicals, but I love research. I mean, I write military, never been in the military. And I like to write about things like my old business partner says, write what you know or write what you want to know. So I do like a fair amount of research. And then of course I like to write serial killers and some of my romantic suspense. So like, I'm like researching.
What kind of research are you doing for that, John?
Exactly.
I always joke, like I wrote this one book, like that had to do with like, what's it called? And I always get scared when I think about it because you have to be really careful.
Aliens?
No, you have to be careful.
Scientology.
No, well, I'm fascinated by Scientology. I actually just watched a whole bunch of stuff on Scientology, but like, you have to be really careful what you Google on the internet. And
That's right.
Stuff about like chat rooms and people who are addicted to chat rooms, and like I Googled it.
Do chat rooms still exist?
Oh my God. It's horrifying and terrifying.
Really?
In a world.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't even know where to find one.
Oh,
right.
The dark web.
Just Google chat rooms and a whole bunch of them will come up, and they're all X-rated. And
yeah.
And what was
no
really
idea.
interesting is that the funniest thing that I learned was that the people who are most addicted to chat rooms are firemen. I love
Really?
Yes, it was just be very.
Why?
I guess they're bored while they're waiting for calls to come over on their 24-hour shift.
Okay.
Ah, interesting.
Who knew?
Interesting.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
learn and research. Nothing to do with historicals. Sorry to have like taken but talk about researching, and what goes into that. Yeah. Well, I went down a rabbit hole that I couldn't come out of, and I came up from my office and I just looked at my husband and he went, "I don't want to know." I really don't.
Probably wise.
Yeah. I find out that reality, whether like when you're researching, you come out you find these real facts that have happened, especially in like history, are just shocking compared to what you could even come up with as an author. Because if you came up with things that happen in reality in history, people would be like, that would never happen back then. And you're like, well, it did.
There is like some woman on TikTok who does like she has a whole account on like people throughout history and how freaky they were. And it's really fun to watch and shocking. And you're like, what? They did what?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Very.
I'll send that to you later, Dawn, because clearly you need that as
I
research.
do need that in my life.
Should post that on the page because I feel like we all need that.
Okay, I'll find it.
Well, and they always say like truth is stranger than fiction. So some of the stuff that you put in your book and people say, that would never happen.
You're like, well,
I was once looking for like a unique way to try and murder someone.
As we all have.
Yeah. And there was a woman like in the 1800s who tried to kill her husband by death by rattlesnake.
How did she do it? She put it in the bed? That's what I would do.
Actually, there was a whole then I went down a whole nother rabbit hole, because there's been lots of people who tried to kill people by rattlesnakes by putting them in strange places, and like in not just in the 1800s, but in like today's world. And I'm like, and people wonder why I'm afraid of snakes.
No, I'm afraid of snakes too. Oh my gosh, we're new besties. I'm definitely afraid of snakes. I will pee my pants in front of my children.
You have to find a snake and catch it, though, if you're going to put it somewhere for someone else. I mean, I can't just like go to the store and buy a rattlesnake. You have to.
Yeah.
Oh no, you can go to the store and buy rattlesnakks.
So, I mean, we got a corn snake at the snake store, but they didn't have rattlesnakes for sale.
Dylann. And if my daughter and her boyfriend ever watch this show, they're going to kill me. But I'm going to tell you right now, my daughter is dating this boy, and he is a country boy, right? He lives on a ranch, and he was roommates with rattlesnakes for a while. They came over from California to Montana. They brought their rattlesnakes with them. And he was roommates with these rattlesnakes for quite some time. And I told my daughter, I said, if you continue to date him and you end up marrying him, just know that you will never I will never come to your house.
Why did he bring rattlesnakes with him from California to Montana?
I don't know. I've known a couple country boys that just they like snakes. They like to catch them. They like to have them as pets. And I'm just like, no, I will never.
I feel like if you had told me this was the direction of our conversation, I wouldn't.
It's always crazy.
Here we are.
It's crazy.
All right, let's start over. Welcome to Romance Happy Hour.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about romance novels tonight, not creepy,
not rattlesnakes. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So Dawn, you were working on a contemporary road trip prequel.
Yeah. There are no rattlesnakes in it.
And when does it come out?
And on the 15th. So of next month.
August.
That's why it was like, I gotta get this done.
Of June-tember. Okay.
Oh, June-tember, yeah. And yep. And then I have to. The date I chose to release the Dogette book was kind of far out in the future, so I think I'm going to redo that and kind of get it here in the next couple months. Release it.
Okay.
See if I can. It's in the world, so
okay.
Yeah, and that's a lot of fun. So
excellent.
It's a fun series. And what about you? What are you doing?
So I have a book releasing August 15th also.
Oh.
It's the first book in a brand new series. It's actually, I think, the second manuscript I ever wrote, and it's what I sent out to get my agent and everything. But it has been, it's been just kind of living on my computer and stuff. And so that's coming out August 15th.
What is it? Which one is it? The Rockstar book?
Betting on the Bad Boy, and it takes place in a small college town, and he is a financial consultant who moonlights as a bartender, and she is an erotic romance author.
Yes, I've read that one.
Yes, whose mom is a Christian inspirational author, and she's been paying off her student loans by writing erotic romance on the side while she teaches in the English department. So
yeah. Can I just say I loved it though?
A lot of inherent conflict, and I'm excited that it's finally going to be coming out. So
me too. I think that's the book.
And then my hero in that book also is cousins to my Whiskey Wars family that I've been writing. So I'll have another Whiskey Wars book that will be coming out before the end of the year.
Nice.
So yeah.
I just have to say though, I love that one, Dylann. It was the first book I ever read of yours.
Okay.
Like, oh, she's good. Oh.
Well, it's been through many iterations, and it should be, and many titles. So yeah, so I'm excited for it to finally be coming out. I was kind of waiting, for the right time. I don't know that it's the right time, but I am tired of waiting. So yes.
So are you self-pubbing that one, or is that for Berkeley? Okay.
Yep. No, self-pub.
Nice.
Yeah. But we are already like almost a quarter into our time, and we need to hear from our authors. So Erin and Jen, welcome tonight. Erin, I know you're going to read first. So why don't you introduce yourself first and tell us a little bit about what you write and what you've got for us tonight. I know you were on, I had to look it up because I think it was December that you were last. It was last year.
Some books come out. Yeah. So I am an author of contemporary and magical realism romance. So my first two books were For Better or Worse. Plot Twist was the one that I came on, I think, in December for. And the book that I'm going to be reading from tonight is called The Backtrack. This is my first, I know, it's really cute. This is my first magical realism book, and it is, as described on the cover, it's kind of like 13 Going on 30 meets Sliding Doors, if you liked either of those movies. But it's a lot about the what if questions that we all have in life.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Looking forward to hearing from that.
Yeah.
And Jen, you're a first-time guest of ours.
I am, and I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Just tell us a little bit about you and what you write and all that good stuff.
I write a lot of different things. Mostly I write military romance, small town contemporary. I have written a couple of paranormals. I write a lot of cops. I'm a little fascinated by the darker side of human nature. I'm going to read from Whalen Unleashed, which is not actually my latest. I don't have my latest. I don't have the paperbacks yet. They haven't come yet.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, that's Searching for Pandora, which actually just came out this past Tuesday.
Okay.
We don't have the paperbacks yet. But that's what I'll be reading from Whalen's Unleashed, which is actually I also write in the Brotherhood Protectors world, which is L. James's world. And I also write in Susan Stoker's world. And then I do a lot of stuff by myself, and I've been published since 2007.
Nice.
So I've been around the block, both traditionally published and indie published. And I also, from 2009 until 2016, I had my own publishing company for a while. So I've done a few things. Well, that's me.
We're glad you're joining us and can't wait to hear what you have for us tonight.
Thank you.
So I think with that, should we go ahead and get started? We can let Erin kind of take the stage. And
yeah, I'm happy to.
And you were reading from your latest book.
Okay, reading from the backtrack.
Are you starting on page 1, or do you need to give us any kind of background or anything?
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of background. So I'm starting, I think it's in chapter 2 or 3. So pretty quickly within the book, this is like page 37, we find out that Sam, our lead gal here, is back in her childhood hometown. She's home to clean out her childhood bedroom because her grandma Pearl is selling the house. And she stumbles upon this CD player that she had in high school. She hasn't touched, in over a decade. And when she puts on the headphones, something happens. And so that's kind of where we're dropped into here. So something we know is that Sam and Damon, our lead guy here, they were emo kids in high school. If no one knows what that term means, it's kind of like a kind of music. And so you'll get a lot of 2000s nostalgia that we'll drop into here. But this scene is when she puts on the headphones for the first time.
All right. Well, we will leave you to it. We'll be back when you're done.
Okay. She put on the headphones, and the warm, nostalgic feeling she'd missed when she first arrived finally hit her. Her room and the CD player in her hands. This was home. Her shoulders relaxed as she hit play and wrapped her arms tightly around her shins. The unmistakable, haunting piano notes of Evanescence's Bring Me to Life began to tinkle out. She couldn't help but grin because she and Damon had been obsessed with the ethereal feel of the melody. Of course he'd picked this song for her. He knew how transported she felt whenever they'd listen. And she remembered the story of how frontwoman Amy Lee wrote the song about being vulnerable with her now husband. As Sam's eyes closed shut, the music surrounded her, and she relaxed back into the bedroom wall. Except just as Amy Lee sang the first lyrics, the space around Sam grew cold. Goosebumps erupted over her arms. Maybe the AC had kicked in. But then an enormous gust of wind nearly knocked her over. Oh my God, Sam screeched as she caught herself with the palm of her hand. Though she wasn't touching soft carpet anymore, her hand was on top of something hard. Sam's heart pounded as her eyes quickly snapped open, and then she stilled in a kind of confused horror because she realized she was no longer in her bedroom. What is happening? Sam's voice was high and tight as her gaze frantically darted around the unfamiliar space. The sky was a wide black canvas dotted with stars. She turned, but hit her head on the bumper of a car. In fact, she was surrounded by parked cars, and when she looked up, she saw an Islands High School soccer champ sticker. I'm dreaming. She'd put on her headphones, fallen asleep from her long day of travel, and now she was in the middle of a dream, which was actually annoying because the last thing she wanted to think about was high school. How could she make herself snap out of this? The CD player rested in her lap, and Amy Lee sang about being numb and needing someone to wake her up. Yeah, well, you and me both, Amy, Sam nearly shouted. She tore the headphones off, but could still hear the faint piano notes floating up from them. This was definitely a dream. Except as her chest tightened from her rapid breathing, it didn't feel like she was asleep. The way she was aware of her twitching fingers at her side, the rub of the ground beneath her, and the welt forming on the back of her head made it all seem like she was wide awake and somewhere else. Sam screamed, a kind of guttural cry for help, so loud that by the time that she was done, her throat was sore. When had she ever had a dream where she actually felt pain? Other than when she'd flown free of charge by riding in the jump seat, fallen asleep, and cracked her head on the coffee cart when they'd hit unexpected turbulence. But this was different, because as she rubbed her stinging throat with her fingers, she wasn't waking up. Footsteps across the pavement snapped her back to attention, and she hid behind the car. but not so much that she couldn't see who was coming. And as it turned out, she was the person coming. More specifically, her younger self. 15 years old, with shoulders slightly hunched, her Converse sneakers dragging, wearing baggy jeans and a skull tee from Hot Topic. It was the same outfit she'd worn in the marching band photo above her desk. And to hit the point home, Teen Sam, alternative Sam, carried a clarinet case covered in band stickers. She wasn't scowling exactly, but most definitely brooding. What the... Sam was sure her frown was so intense it might end up stuck there. She pinched herself to wake up, but the spot on her forearm hurt. She ducked lower behind the car, and her heart raced with dread of the unknown. Is this a concussion? Can you die from vegan pralines? It's cold. Why didn't Dreamy wear a sweater? The thoughts stopped, though, as she discovered that trailing behind 15-year-old Sam was 15-year-old Damon, with his spiky hair and shiny black button-up shirt. Sam almost gasped, but covered her mouth as she watched Damon pull her high school self in close for warmth. Damon, with his liner-rimmed eyes, looked down at Alt Sam with the most genuinely sweet smile she'd ever seen. Sam blinked hard, willing the images to end, but she was still stuck. Maybe the CD player was so old that it had leaked battery fluid and now she was lucid dreaming? Did battery fluid do that? Clearly she was passed out in her childhood bedroom and hallucinating. How else to explain why she was seeing the night that changed everything and nothing? Still, there she and Damon were. Sam's stomach sank because she'd burned this moment into her memory and relived it so many times already. Seeing it again and so sharply didn't exactly give her a happy feeling. She watched as Damon's mouth quirked up and how, when they got to the Ford Explorer, he brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. As he did, her earring fell to the ground. Adult Sam instinctively reached up to her own earlobe, but she wasn't wearing earrings. She hadn't worn that set, moonstone studs, her mom's, since that night. She'd kept the one remaining earring, but had never recovered the fallen one. Now she watched as Alt Sam bent to search for it on the ground. But it was Damon who picked it up and tucked it into the front zippered pocket of her clarinet case. And before Alt Sam could find out where that earring had gone, Damon closed the gap between him and her younger self. Sam knew what he was about to say. I hope you don't hate Fall Out Boy too much, because I put one of their songs on this. Damon reached into his back pocket and pulled out a white CD sleeve. He handed it over, but Sam knew which CD this was, the exact mix she was now listening to. Sam moved closer to hear the conversation clearly, but they didn't notice. What is happening? She shouted. Sam threw her hands up and sighed in exasperation. Fine, fine. She was stuck watching this incredibly strong hallucination dream memory. Sam crossed her arms and hugged herself. Staring at her old marching band photo had probably brought this on. She should have known better than to pilot a long-distance flight and drive straight over to Grandma Pearl's without any rest. You look really great. He longingly admired her face. Damon's hand reached for younger Sam's and squeezed her open palm. Then he tilted her chin up gently with an index finger. His eyes locked onto hers as he asked, "Can I kiss you?" Oh, God, Sam muttered to herself. This was the part of the memory that really hurt, when Damon had been so vulnerable and she couldn't reciprocate. His expression had hope, while hers had dimmed, and she remembered what came next. Poor Damon. Teenage Sam hesitated, the same way she had all those years ago. She'd wanted to kiss Damon. He was adorable, like if Ezra Koenig and Pete Wentz had a baby. But with Damon, she'd known that if they'd kiss, they would no longer just be friends. He'd expect more. She had a plan to leave Tibby and, deep down, also knew that Damon wasn't going to leave with her. So she'd faked being sick and asked him to take her home. They never spoke about it again, and their relationship hadn't bounced back to the normal level of best friend status they'd once held for each other. Sam waited to hear the lie. Actually, I'm not feeling well. There was a long stretch of silence, save for the background music still playing from the headphones in her hand as Amy Lee Yell sang the climax of the song. But then, instead of lying to Damon, Alt Sam gave a slow but certain nod that made Damon lean down and cup her face with both hands. Their lips met. She pulled him in close as Damon backed her up against the hood of his car in what was, honestly, a very smooth move. He quickly removed his snare drum case and her clarinet as their bodies pressed tightly together. Then he gently traced the line of her cheekbone with his thumb as she scratched through his hair with her painted black nails. What in the teenage hormones is going on? Adult Sam uncrossed her arms, cocked her head, and watched as history rewrote itself right in front of her. Huh, she said. Adult Sam got so close that she snapped her fingers next to them, but they didn't respond. The rules of dreams were confusing. She circled, but it was like she wasn't even there, or maybe they were just so focused on the makeout that they didn't notice. The sound of their lips meeting, of Damon's low growl in his throat, was honestly not her thing. She put the headphones back on to let the music drown out the saliva swapping. The last line of the song came through, where Lee carried the word life out until her voice went hoarse. Sam closed her eyes to let the last notes sink in, but as she did, the air felt warm again, and her eyes abruptly shot open. The CD player had turned off, the song ended, and silence filled her ears. There she was, back in her childhood bedroom. Dream over. And I'll end it there. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
And mute everybody. How weird would that be?
I thought that would be a really fun experience to have, because as someone who made a lot of mixtapes when I was in high school, it was just everything to have someone give you one, and to experience those memories again through the lens of a song was really fun to write. And so the book goes through 13 songs that Damon chose for her, and you see the alternate life that Sam would have had if she kissed him that night.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's interesting.
It's fun.
That had to have been hard to write, though. I would
Very
imagine.
hard. Very hard. I had a lot of note cards, like what is that movie, A Beautiful Mind or whatever, where he's like, yeah, it was scary. It got scary, but we did it.
That's cool. Very cool.
Thank you.
What were you going to say, Dawn?
Well, I had it in my brain, and then it left.
It went away.
It went away.
You got to
like
back
30
in that
seconds.
shower.
Yeah. Shoot.
I'm wondering what inspired that book. Like, where did the idea come from?
I think, was that your question too, Dawn?
Sort of.
Yeah. Well, for me, I am always like, I wonder a lot about choices I made in my life, and I think about the little choices we make every day that change our lives. And for me, like, I left home when I was 18, and I haven't lived in Florida again since. And so I often wonder, like, what would my life have been like if I still lived in Florida, or if I never broke up with my high school boyfriend, or all of these things. And so for me, this book was kind of a way to answer those questions. It's like sometimes writing books can be therapy. You're like working out your own.
It was always therapy for me. Always therapy for me.
Yeah. So I feel that this book is a really great book if you're someone who has those what if questions, and you're someone who often wonders, like I do, like, what choices have I made that have led me here, and would my life be better or worse if I didn't make them?
What is that? The Nicolas Cage movie, The Family Man, or something like that.
I love that movie. Yeah.
Yes. I love that one too, because
so any kind of movies like that have definitely been a huge influence on me. Like I mentioned, Sliding Doors and 13 Going on 30, those all kind of deal with the idea of like, oh, if I made one different decision, what would my life be?
Yep.
So you're going through these movies, and these clearly like movies when we were like growing up and stuff.
Yeah.
But so with that being said, my question that popped back into my brain right after Dylan asked that is, did you listen to a mixtape that a previous boyfriend to you gave you on repeat the whole time you were writing this book? Or
I didn't, because I unfortunately, like, I'm someone who, if someone wrongs me, I burn every memory of them, and I don't keep anything. And so, but what I did think about, in high school, my high school boyfriend was in a band. And so he would always, it was not a good band. Let's not get too excited, but he would bring me to concerts, and, music was a way that we spoke to each other, and it was like a language. And so for me, revisiting this did like bring up a lot of those memories and those experiences, especially when you're growing up, of like, music is just everything. And I don't know if it was like, especially when we were younger, like I used to listen to whole albums. I don't know if people do that as much anymore, but you know, it was like such an experience to like buy the CD and see the CD sleeve and like hold the music in your hands in a way that like having an iPod or whatever, like when I got to college, it was just different. Like not buying the CD and not consuming the whole thing. So it was such a important experience of my growing up, and I just wanted that to kind of translate into like how it turned out for these two who were obsessed with music together and bonded through it.
So did you make yourself a mixtape that you listened to while you were writing?
I did, yeah. And actually at the end of the book, there's a QR code where you can scan it and you can listen to the CD too. So it's
I love
cool.
it.
Yeah. But I did make a playlist because obviously we need that. Yeah.
So you made me feel very old because you said, "Oh, the CD." I'm like, vinyl.
Oh man. I mean, the best. I still remember like using also tapes, and like we would listen to the radio, and you could record a song off the radio, and you would have to like time it so that you wouldn't get a commercial or something.
Yeah. We're like,
my husband was so obsessive about music that when we bought an album that you could only play it once, because then he would tape it and then it would go into this collection of albums that we eventually got lots of money for when we finally sold it.
Wow, that's cool.
And to this day, he's still mad that we sold all of these. I'm like, we don't even have a record player anymore.
Right.
Even make them anymore. I mean, it's like, and my kids
do. I mean, my brother has one. I feel like there's been a resurgence, like
coming back.
With my brother, and I mean, you can definitely get record. I feel like there's also, I live in Los Angeles, and in Los Feliz, there's like a big record store. Like it's a thing.
No, it's a huge thing. My mom asked like this last year for Christmas, my stepdad, she wanted to get him a record player. And I said, well, what should I get? She's like, get him records. And I found him at Walmart. Like, but new age songs, like Taylor Swift is on freaking vinyl right now.
Yes.
And I'm like,
See, I thought you were going to say you couldn't listen to the mixtape because you didn't have a tape player anymore, which tape players are harder to come by.
Yeah.
But you know, there actually is also a LA place where they're selling old tapes, and they're selling tape players. So maybe that'll be the next thing to come back. I don't know.
So I still have my big giant boombox with the dual tape player, so you could dub them yourself, and it had a CD player on top.
Yeah, so, I remember having that too. The CD like tape combo was super important.
Yeah,
and it's like bigger than. I mean, it's huge.
I'm so old. I dated a guy who had a van with a mattress in the back and listened to Meatloaf on an 8-track.
Oh my God.
The mattress in the back is a little, I
think I was 16. Yeah.
You were 16 and he had a mattress in the back of his car. I'm just saying, where were your parents? I would have been like, no, you're not going out with that guy who has a mattress in his car.
So I'm 58. I have no qualms about my age. And it might have been like at 16. I don't know what year it was, but I remember like 1980. Whatever there was, or in the late 70s, I was like 14, 1978, 1980, whatever. There was that old saying that would come on TV. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?
Yeah. I heard that.
We used to say, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your parents are?
Right.
Looking for their children.
My parents were divorced. They split when I was like 10, 11 years old. And my parents were dating. So we had no clue. And where my parents.
Yeah, it's a different time to parent right now. Dawn, you have young kids? I can't remember.
I both. Yeah, I have a Marine, one that just graduated from high school, and then I have a 10 and an 11-year-old. So
okay, see, I have a 1 and a 4-year-old, so it's a very different vibe.
Yes.
Yeah. To parent right now.
My kids are. Let's see, my daughter's 33 and my boys are almost 31 and 27.
Yeah.
So you were that parent that's like, where are my kids at 10 o'clock?
I was the parent that just drop kicked them out the door and said, just don't. And then I would, I was just we would laugh and go, yeah, don't do anything I wouldn't do. And my kids would turn around and go, that leaves it wide open. We can do anything we want. And I'm like, yeah, damn.
Yeah.
Well, do we have any questions, Dawn?
We do. I also have questions, but let's put Deanna's up there because she beat me to it, and so this is like it's become one of our favorite. Well, one of my favorite questions is, if your love life could be described with tropes, what would they be?
Sorry, Dawn.
She got it. Yeah, she got it first. She wrote it down first before I could ask it. That's her. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm married with young children, so what would it be?
Well, like your relationship with, what's your love story with your significant other?
How you met?
Okay. Well, we met on a dating app, and so let me think about that. Maybe someone else can go first.
Give you an example, Dawn. What's yours?
Military. What did I say last time? I've had a couple white claws.
You've got an alpha male.
Oh, good
alpha
for you.
male.
Yep.
Alpha male, military.
Oh, okay. I have a cinnamon roll hero. Cinnamon roll hero. I would say we're insta love or something like that.
Yeah.
And
okay, tell us your story.
Rom-com.
Okay. Ooh, rom-com. Oh,
we make
did
it.
He fall
life
first?
is funny.
Yeah.
What was that?
I said, did he fall first?
I fell for it. It actually took him a year to tell me that he loved me, and I remember him telling it to me in a card. And I said, "It says I love you." And he said, "Yeah," and I was like, "Does that mean
you love me?
You love me?" Yeah, yeah.
I love it. So tell us how you met, though. I mean, let's do that. Let's just really quick.
Your meet cute.
Your meet cute.
Well, we met on OkCupid, and I remember he put in his profile that he liked books, which is a little bit hard in LA to find. So I was like foaming at the mouth. I was like, books, great. And so we met at a wine bar, and we bonded over the fact that we lived walking distance to this wine bar. Everything is about distance in LA. How far are you? He made me laugh constantly when we met, and I just kind of knew. I had had this rule with online dating. I was like, if I go on 3 dates with like 3 people who are out of their minds, like I'm going to stop this and try to meet someone in real life again. And he was my 3rd date. And so I actually canceled the app once I had the date set up, because I was like, I know this one's going to be bad too, because my last 2 were bad. And so when I met up with him, it was just like, I just kind of knew right away. I was like, this guy's different. It's going to be something. And I remember he took me he like set up, everything was easy. It was like, he set up the next date right away, and there were no games. He was just like a nice, funny guy. Also, fun fact, I've never seen my husband without his beard. He grew the beard a week before meeting me, and he has never shaved it. So
wow.
We've been together over 10 years. I don't know what he looks like without a beard.
That's so funny. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Very strange.
Those beard boys, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Jen.
So I would have to break it down to 2 tropes: soulmates and opposites attract.
Oh. Ooh. Yeah.
I met my husband when I was 18.
Oh.
So we have been.
Was he the one driving that van?
Yeah, with the mattress.
No.
Oh,
just checking. Okay.
No. Ironically, I knew my mother-in-law for 2 years before I knew my husband.
Funny.
My mother introduced us, and then for the next 4 years tried to break us up.
Ooh.
She did not like us together.
Oh my gosh.
And for the first 3 weeks, I knew him as he chased me. I did everything I could to slam the door in his face. And then I just relented and said, all right, fine, I'll go out with you. And then 3 weeks later, I moved in with them.
Wow.
Wow.
Things
move fast.
So we got married. I moved in with them like right around my 19th birthday. And we got married.
Oh my gosh, you were 19?
I was 19. I know everything you tell your children not to do.
Wow.
I was probably part in why my mother didn't like him.
Mhm.
And we have been married for 36 years. And we've been living underneath the same roof for like 40.
Amazing.
Wow.
So it's been bliss, but we are complete opposites. He is an extrovert. Neither one of us are shy, so nobody can ever describe me as shy. Dylann will say that. Dylann bought me Diet Coke. I love Dylann.
He's an extrovert and you're opposites? That does not make sense.
I am not an extrovert, but I am not shy. No one can ever describe me as shy. I am the furthest thing from shy. But if I could spend all day alone by myself in my house or with my son's 2 dogs, that is what I will do.
Okay.
But I am not shy. My husband is an extrovert. He has hundreds of friends. They exhaust me. Like, exhaust me. He plays golf. Why would you want to chase a white ball around grass? I don't understand it. The only thing we have, he doesn't read. Oh my God. It's horrifying. The only thing we have in common is we both love to boat.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a big thing.
And our 3 children.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That helps.
Which we all say came from the UPS guy. So there's that.
Okay.
My one son is 6'3". My other son is 6 foot. My husband is 5'8". And the UPS guy was a very attractive Irishman. My husband is Irish too, who is over 6 foot tall. And we just saw, it's just is a running joke in our house. But yeah,
you never know.
That's my
Takes
love.
all kinds.
Okay. So I'm just going to tell you, Dylann always makes fun of me because I always do lately I've been doing like a challenge. And so like, this is for you too, Dylann, and actually everybody. And like, tell me if you get the same results as I do. But I like to ask people that question, like, how did you meet your spouse? Because the answer to the way they answer you, I find tells whether they are actually in love or just like not. Because I can tell, like, when I say, oh, so how did you meet your husband? And she's like, oh, like at a bar. And then you're just like, okay, but how? They're not she's not actually in love with him. But when I asked you guys, you told me the story. And so I love to ask people that because
thank God we passed the test, because how awkward
totally
would it be if I was like, I met him?
I would.
You're also storytellers, Dawn.
I know you are, but that's why I challenged Deanna too. Like, and who else is on here?
Okay.
Jennifer?
I am going to interrupt here and say that we need to hear from Jen.
We do.
Because we're 43
Can I
just skirt this? No, just kidding.
You're not getting out of this.
Can I just do one thing? Can I just do one thing?
Can I stop you? Go ahead.
No, you can't, because Erin was actually talking too. Okay. But Deanna says she had a snog box.
Yes.
So Erin said, "What's a snog box?" And Deanna said, "A shaggin' wagon." So, anyways, like
I've never heard the term snog box in my life.
Either.
I don't know what a snog box is, and I didn't know what the next thing was after that.
Shaggin' wagon.
Shaggin' wagon.
I know that one.
I don't know what that is.
It's your van with the mattress in the back.
Exactly.
That's what we do.
No, I'm pretty sure they had sandwiches in the back of the magic mystery machine, not a mattress.
Not a mattress.
Well, that's just some creepy dude playing Meatloaf, Paradise by the Dashboard Lights, trying to, be creepy.
Shaggin' wagon in a snog box.
Jen, you're not going to avoid reading for us tonight, so it is your turn. What do you have for us?
So this is Whalen Unleashed. I'm going to actually start in chapter 2, but chapter 2 is just where we get to meet the hero for the first time. Chapter 1 is where you meet the heroine for the first time, and it's not quite their meet cute, but I am a sucker for second chance romances. Partly because I've never had one.
When you meet your life partner at 18, then you don't really have a chance for that, do you?
No, you don't. But I love second chance romances. My mom actually kind of sort of had one. My mom's been married 3 times. And the funny story about my mom, I love my mom dearly. Her third husband, I've known my whole life. I called him Uncle Elliot. So she divorced my dad. And then she married husband number 2, who wasn't that great. And they divorced. And then all of a sudden she's like, I'm going to marry Elliot. And I'm like, Uncle Elliot? It's kind of strange. But he was a great guy. They never dated before. They were just, he was like,
he's
my
not
dad.
really your uncle, right? He's not like your dad's brother.
No.
Hopefully, especially not your mom's brother.
No, they were family friends. But what's really funny about it, I'd love to tell the story, is remember the Bob Newman show, Bob Newhart show? And, my brother Daryl and my other brother Daryl? Yeah, I have a brother Jeff and another brother Jeff. I have a brother Jeff and a stepbrother Jeff. And I just love to introduce them. Like, this is my brother Jeff and this is my other brother Jeff. And they all look at me like, where are you from? West Virginia? Something like that.
Love it.
All right. So I guess I'll have to read. So I'm going to look at my timer so I can keep us on track here. So
okay, we will rejoin you when you're done.
Okay. Big Island, Hawaii. Of all places, Waylon Brown thought he'd end up for a retirement party for the best CO he'd ever had. This was not where he expected it to be. Not that he was complaining. Hawaii was the most beautiful place in the world. However, it brought back a slew of memories and emotions that Waylon hadn't been prepared for. He leaned against the fence, lifted his beer to his lips, and swigged. The barbecue was in full force. Jace Hawkins sure knew how to throw a party. Waylon knew it wouldn't be an intimate gathering. He'd done his best to prepare himself to be social, even though this kind of thing reminded him of when he'd been a teenager. Hawks Ranch was an impressive piece of property that served as the base of operations for the local branch of the Brotherhood Protectors. The men and women who worked for the organization were mainly retired from the military or law enforcement. It made Waylon think about what his future might look like now that he'd given civilian life a good run. And it wasn't for him. He couldn't continue to travel with his buddies for the rest of his life. He wasn't interested in chasing women. His ex-wife had left a bad taste in his mouth that he'd barely dated since then. Going without a girl in his bed was easy. However, living his life outside the Navy had become a chore. Military life might have run its course, but he wasn't an old man at 40. He needed to keep the blood pumping in his veins, and an organization like the Brotherhood Protectors might be exactly what he and his team were looking for. Though they'd come to Big Island to celebrate a great man, and Waylon wasn't sure his heart... Though they'd come to Big Island to celebrate a great man, and Waylon wasn't sure his heart and soul could bear the pains of the past that Big Island and all of Hawaii represented. What the heck are you doing over here all by your lonesome? Harlan Fender strolled across the grass with a cool swagger that often made him appear a little arrogant and a little difficult to read. Harlan was far from egotistical. He had this even keel about him that reminded Waylon of one of his favorite types of catamarans. The sailboat would cut through the water with a steady, sturdy, reliable hull. That was Harlan. But most regarded him as a standoff personality type. That wasn't true. He could be guarded, which was a hazard of the job. Harlan was a top-notch negotiator. He had to remain calm in all situations, and that's precisely what he did, to a fault. It sometimes drove Waylon nuts, but it was also one of the things that Waylon admired. Taking in the view. Waylon raised his long neck and clanked it against Harlan's. How does it feel to be back? Harlan asked. Waylon shrugged. This was not a conversation he wanted to have, except maybe with his mother. Too many demons, too many memories of his dad, or of a certain girl whom he could never quite get out of his mind or his heart. Everything looked smaller than I remember. I sent my mom a bunch of pictures, and she said it all looked a little different, but exactly the same. I have no idea what she meant by that, but it made her cry, Waylon sighed. I'm thinking about flying her out here in a couple of weeks. I'm sure she'd like that, Harlan nodded. We've been in some pretty amazing places, but this one is spectacular. It must have been incredible to grow up here. It was, Waylon nodded, but Chesapeake was nice too. Great fishing, and all my aunts and uncles and cousins are there. But Presley was not. He sighed. That name had been stuck in his head since he landed, and he couldn't get it out. Your Uncle Ricky cracks me up. He tries to out-negotiate me every single time I see him. Waylon laughed. He thinks you're the bomb. Looks like you two are deep in conversation, Raider Torres said, jogging over. Or are we looking for a one-night stand for Harlan? I'm always on high alert for that. One thing Waylon could count on from Raider was comic relief. If you're going to be an explosive expert, you have to have a sense of humor to go with the insanity that went with that job. But Raider had not taken to civilian life as well as everyone else. No one had adjusted easily, but Waylon had taken to it the best. He'd been the most ready to retire from active duty. It wasn't that Raider wasn't, but the lack of action had been messing with his mental stability. You boys are real funny, Harlan took a swig of his brew. What do you think about this place and about the Brotherhood Protectors? Check and check, Raider said. I'd consider both. That had been about the most excitement Raider had shown about anything outside of a near-death experience since they had walked off the base. I know a guy who works for the Colorado branch, Waylon fiddled with the label on his beer. We crossed paths while doing some IT training. His name is Darius. He was Army, worked for a lot of JSOC missions. Great guy. You think I've got skills? That man's a genius. He's got nothing but great things to say about this organization and everyone in it. Good to know. Raider lifted his arm, resting his elbow on one of the posts. Raider was the kind of man you didn't want to mess with, but he was also as loyal as they came. He was the type of man who, if you asked for help, he didn't ask why. He just did. Anyone seen Lane lately? Waylon chuckled. When I left him, he was chatting up some cute little thing. Man is always flirting with someone. Well, that's for damn sure, Harlan said. I'm going to get some grub. You two idiots coming? In a couple, Waylon nodded. I need to call my mom. You've always been a bit of a mama's boy, Raider said, and proud of it. Waylon blinked a few times and cracked a grin. Harlan squeezed his shoulder. Get your ass over to the food and stop being antisocial. It's not good for you. I'm with him on that, Raider said. Waylon waved his cell. I'll be there in 10. He tapped the icon where he stored the images from his past. A part of him had thought about looking Presley up, but it had been 23 years. For all he knew, she could be married with a bunch of kids. Hell, he'd tried wedded bliss. More like wedded hell. That marriage had lasted only 5 years. Hey, man, Waylon glanced up. Lane Benning practically skipped in his direction. Of all the men on his team, Lane could often be the most animated, which was funny. He was a sniper. He had to be calm, quiet, relaxed, but ready to fire. Lane had a happy-go-lucky attitude about life. Not much rattled his nerves. He was like Harlan in that sense. But the difference between the two men was Lane didn't make everything a massive discussion. You get lucky, Waylon asked. I might have gotten a phone number, Lane grinned. She's probably got a friend. Waylon shook his head. I can get my own dates, thank you very much. I'll believe that when I see it, Lane cocked his head. They're serving food over there. Did you come all the way over here to tell me that? Or are you and my teammates coming over here one by one to check on me? Everyone knew about his dad. It was no secret that his father had died from a widowmaker heart attack when Waylon was 16 years old. 6 months later, his mom packed up all their things and they moved from Big Island, Hawaii, where his father had been stationed, back to Maryland. Waylon's hero had always been his dad. Losing him had been one of the toughest things he'd ever had to go through. SEAL training was easier than the first few months of that, and Waylon still carried that pain etched deep in his soul. But he'd lost something else when he moved from Hawaii at the age of 17, and he'd never forgotten her. You can take care of yourself, Lane chuckled, but his face quickly turned serious as he ran a hand across his mouth. Look, you and I go back a long time. We've seen some stuff together, surfed some waves. He placed a strong hand on Waylon's chest. I know what you're going through. I know how hard it is for you to be back here, especially on this island. You were there for me when I scattered my mom's ashes. He arched a brow. I'm here for you now. Whenever you're ready, all you have to do is ask. Lane had brought the whole team to Malibu when it had come time to spread his dear sweet mother's ashes. They had surrounded him when he needed their support the most. Waylon didn't know what he wanted. One minute he wanted the team with him when he spread his father's ashes. The next he wanted to go find Presley. His teammates, every single one of them, teased him for being an introvert, a computer geek, that he'd rather spend a night home with his gadgets instead of a warm body. Have a marriage like his and you might prefer binge watching than being with someone who can make your life a living horror show. I appreciate that, and when the time comes, I'll let you know. Lane nodded. Now let's go eat. I promised my mom I'd check in, so I need to call her. He lowered his chin and waved his cell. You're a good boy. Lane turned and meandered back toward the party. Waylon tapped his mother's number and placed it on speaker. He glanced at the farm and his gaze landing on one of his oldest and best friends, Cayenne. He burst out laughing. What's so funny, son? His mother's voice echoed in the evening air. I'm looking at Cayenne staring intently at a woman drooling over her. God, that man should have a nice lady in his life, his mom said, and so should you. I'll leave it at that. Because I could go on forever.
Oops, sorry. I had a little technical difficulties there.
That's okay. I looked up and I'm still staring at myself.
Well, it's all good.
Yeah.
So just one little quick thing about me. I'm dyslexic, so sometimes reading my own words is hard.
Mm-hmm.
You did really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about the depth of your character. We know so much about him already in just a very short time. So
I kind of picked that one just to kind of show the team. And I always build like a group of people because that's kind of the richness and kind of shows who he is. And of course, 23 years between obviously Presley is his. And then I have to laugh. He's a closet case singer. Nobody knows he knows how to sing or play the piano. And later he breaks out. I was laughing at your playlist. Later he breaks out in song at a bar for randomly, and nobody knows he knows how to sing.
Well, I love qualities like that.
Yeah, isn't that how like Benson Boone became like so hot? Is because he like discovered, oh yeah, I can sing. Yeah, so he did it on YouTube or something.
Something like that.
Sounds right.
I only know that because my children, right?
Oh, okay, I was gonna say. Clueless over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do we have any more questions, Dawn?
We don't. I had a question, and of course it tweeted out of my brain really quick. Oh my gosh. I'm just like, yeah, this is where I'm
What kind of research did you do for this story, Jen? Because I know you said you're research driven.
So this one was interesting because there's 5 of us actually so I'm actually technically book 4. So there was 5 guys that you heard me talk about. Roland was book 4. I think Harlan was book 2. Cayenne was book 5. The other 2 were book 2 and 3. I can't remember. So because I mean, I have a brother in the Navy, a dad that went to the Naval Academy. So, I mean, I have a lot of information at the tip of my fingertips for the military. My ex-business partner was a Green Beret. So a lot of that's already at my fingertips. But I generally write about places I've been. So like I actually wrote a book in Madagascar. My daughter lived in Madagascar for 2.5 years. So I wrote about Madagascar. I've never been to Hawaii. So we're calling up Elle and like doing pictures and calling up friends that have been, that was the hardest part for me because I've never actually been there. And I like to walk the terrain about where I'm writing. So that was the hardest part about getting there. I actually am going to Hawaii and I am going to Big Island. in November. So that'll be exciting. And we're doing a whole nother, I just finished the second book in this series that is set in Big Island, and working on the third one. We're doing a set of 5, which is actually technically will be 25 books because there's 5 of us. No, dropped down to 4 because Stacy dropped out. So for this one, it drew on a lot of things I knew because Presley owns a boat tour company, like deep sea fishing and catamarans. And I had just come back from a 12-day sailing on a catamaran, but not in Hawaii. So I had to do like a lot of research on like where do they sail around Big Island and like where can they pick up buoys. But I know a lot about sailing. So again, it was a lot of stuff that I knew, but I needed to tack on that information. And then I had to spend a lot of time talking to my brother, which is always interesting because he goes on worse tangents than I do because they were rescue swimmers and my brother was a rescue swimmer in the Navy. So like, it's like, Jeff, how do you jump out of a helicopter and in the water and not die? Like how close can the helicopter get to the mast and not die?
Yeah. So I remembered my question, which because you were talking about Presley, right? So while you were reading, I did pop over to your book that I posted the link to, and I was reading the description. So I was like, is she in the Navy? But she's not. So she's not in the Navy. She's just a sailor with a sailboat.
So she owns Driftwood Tours, which is they do fishing tours and catamaran sailing tours, that charters. So kind of don't think big tours like Below Deck, right? Yeah. Think very small, like 50-foot catamarans, but they'll still do 3-4 day tours, or you can rent them, and then deep sea fishing tours, that kind of thing. Gotcha. But she's always had a love for the sea.
Mm-hmm. Well, as a coastie who has been out to sea in the deep sea and worked with Navy SEALs, I appreciate your book. I just gotta say, I have read some that would just make me want to like punch myself in the face. But everything that you wrote or read to us tonight, I was like, perfect. Like it was great according to everything I've experienced. So kudos. Like you got it.
Well, well, you'll have to read more then and tell me if I still got it, because there's a scene where jumps out of a helicopter and jumps on her boat as they're like, the boat was an explosion and it's like dead in the water. But I also grew up on a boat. We actually have a boat. I laughed, you're from Florida. I actually right now up in Rochester, New York, but we technically live in Florida.
Mm-hmm. Where?
Jupiter, Tequesta.
Ah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
We just came back we took our boat. People laugh at me that we actually do this. We have a 30-foot Sea Hunt, which is a fishing vessel, but it's only 30 feet. So in the ocean, it's a dinghy. Mm-hmm. And we drove it to Bimini, Bahama by ourselves.
Nice. Yeah.
So it was just us out there in the ocean with whales and sharks and dolphins.
It makes you feel so small in life, right?
Tiny. It's 30 feet. I mean, it's a big boat in the intercoastal, like, driving up on the sandbar, people look at me like, wow, that's a massive boat and you're all by yourself. And oh my God, you're a woman. Like that drives me nuts. Like drives me insane because I've been driving boats since I was 2 years old. But my husband and I and some of our kids, but this was the first year we took it without another boat going with us. And so it was it was a little bit rough. So it was technically only 2-foot waves, which really isn't that bad. But when there's no seconds between the waves, so like you want to gauge. So if the longer the seconds, the more spread between the waves. So it's more rolly. Mm-hmm. But when you start having closer seconds, it's just a pound. So you're just doing that.
Yeah.
And so what should have only been a 3-hour tour, Gilligan's Island, was 6 hours across the ocean. So that was kind of a long drive, but that's what we did. So I spent a lot of time out there. So that part was easy for me. The military aspect, I have to get a lot because I've never been in the military, but I have a fair amount. And then not knowing anything about Hawaii, I've never been.
Yeah.
Hard because I generally like to write about places I've been.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, and thank goodness for the internet. I can't imagine how authors did research before. I mean, if you want to feel like what does it feel like to walk along this one path in Hawaii? All you have to do is go to YouTube and you can be like, watch someone's GoPro as they, walk along a path. So it's really.
Or to my gym, because they have all these cities where I can run their paths.
Oh, I thought you meant people take GoPro to your gym. I was like, I'm not sure I want to go to your gym with you.
My treadmill at this gym has these city paths, and I'm like, okay, I'm running in freaking Spain. Cool.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So ladies, I have to head out soon because I can hear my 2 children screaming at my husband. So I'm just flagging them. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, that's
we are going to wrap up. So real quick before we do, I know we've got the giveaway that is still up on the Romance Happy Hour Facebook page. We'll give you until Sunday night to get your entries in for that. Erin and Jen, thank you both for being here with us. Really appreciate it. We always love to hear authors read their own work, and really enjoyed.
Hopefully no one has nightmares about snakes tonight.
I will.
No, we erased that part.
Yeah.
You had to bring it up, Erin.
So thanks for joining us on this episode of Romance Happy Hour. We will be back in August, the second Thursday of August. So hopefully we'll see you then. And anything else you guys want to leave us with, or?
Just thanks for having us. Appreciate
Absolutely. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will see you next time. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you in August.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Oh, she got